G'day all. On this episode of Building the Homestead, I'm doing the setup. I'll also show you the tools and equipment that I need to complete this job. So come along and let's do this together. As you see, I've done the groundwork, prepared the ground. I've got my star pickets in each corner. They'll be for the batter boards. I'll show you how I do the batter boards. I'm not the only one, but it's a different way to the generic 2 on each corner. Seems to work well for us. Got my kit laid out ready, and I've got 20 piers under the main home as per the engineering drawings. So I'll show you my tips and tricks on how I find a starting point, run out, square off using Pythagoras theorem. Yeah, math. Get to it, show you how it's done. These are the tools and equipment that I'll be using to get the job done. I'm using a stretcher bed because I don't have a workbench or a workstation here. This way I can keep everything off the ground in one place, makes it harder to lose. Hammers, I've got a larger one for the wooden pegs and a smaller one for if I want to do nails. These metal pegs are for the initial squaring off. I'll use them to mark out the corners first, and that gives me a guideline for setting up my butter boards. Over here is 2 star pickets for each corner and a butter board. I usually prefer much longer. I'd like to be using around the 1.82 meter long length of butter board, but I don't want to spend money either. So I have these sleepers lying around. It's overkill, I know, but they'll be in for a few months. So having a good thick chunk of wood like that should ensure it stays square. My wooden pegs, these fellas are for each of the piers. Once I've got my squaring off done, they'll go in every single pier spot. Dead center, so I know where the holes have to be bored to pour the concrete. Not necessary, but today I'm using a drill because on each of the 4 corner posts, I am going to be putting screws into the dead center point. And that's a means for me to run string lines as well. String line, of course, use a fair bit of that. 2 measuring tapes. Get them so they're long enough. These are 30 meters, they're more than good enough for the job. Real good tip. Don't get fiberglass, don't get plastic, get metal. The reason being is metal won't stretch as easily as the other 2. You can easily overstretch, and stretching it out an extra, half an inch, 12, 15 mil can really put your surveying out. I have 2 because I have to use the Pythagoras theorem to ensure that this is square. I'll show you that a bit later. It's pretty simple. This is useless. That's just a camera lens cover. And of course, a rubbish box, because I hate rubbish flying around. I could have used a star picket driver, but I decided to get one of these post drivers, a petrol powered 4-stroke, simply because not only do I have these star pickets to drive in, but I've got a few hundred to drive in for the orchard, and who knows how many to replace along the fence line. While there's petrol available, why not? I'm keeping the manual picker driver, of course, for a rainy day. Let's see how this thing goes when it comes time to use it. Once again, I'll have a link below for a review on this 4-stroke petrol powered post driver. For this job, I got a rotary laser level with a staff and a receiver. The receiver will show me when I'm bang level. I got the proper tripod for this. The reason I got this model I'll explain in another video when I do a review on the product. I'll be using the laser level for calculating the height of each of the piers that I'll need. So I've got something to send to the supplier and make sure that it's to code. The laser level for the butter boards, because I want to have them level, and I'll explain that down the track as I'm doing that. For me, it is critical. This setup stage is the foundation stage. This is where you need to be pedantic. Double, triple, even quadruple check your measurements. You've heard the saying, a house is only as good as its foundations. Well, this is where it all comes down to getting every pier done to engineering specs in exactly the right location. Everything has to be bang on. You want a house to last? Spend that extra time on this stage. it'll be well worth it. Anyway, let's hop to it. Don't forget, check the link below for my video on how useful this is on a homestead. So here, this is our starting peg, marker peg. Working off this one, as per the drawings, this is the location I start from and do all my calculations. I've got my bearing. Now it's time to measure out the exact distance between the furthest right pier and the furthest left pier. Here we go. As per the plans, millimeter perfect. Go to millimeter, you guys over in the US of A. 13,797. 13,697. Now, I don't need to be this precise for the initial square out, because this is simply for me to be able to line up the butter boards to then do the string lines at millimeter perfect. But if I follow every step of the way as accurately as I can, I've got nothing to lose but time. There we go. Rightio, this is where the math comes in. I've got my two pegs. Now I need to get at 90 degrees, so it's nice and square. This rectangle is square. I've got my measurement for here, 13,797 millimeters. I got my measurement for here, 10,293. I'm just using a very basic diagonal calculator. Don't know if you can see it there, hopefully you can. And that gives me a diagonal of 17,213 millimeters. Rightio, time to get the other measuring tape and show you how this is done. I've got to refer to my little digital device. We know the side of the house is 10,293, so we go and find 10,293, right about there. And we know the diagonal from our little Pythagoras calculator is 17,213. So all I've got to do is intersect. So now I've got them pinned in the spot where I want them. I lay this down and make sure they're square right there. Double check. Bang on. Make sure the same tension is on the tape. Plonk your peg in. Drive it down. Okay. Checking my measurements. 292, 213. Happy with that. Now to duplicate it over on the other side and then cross-reference this measurement and we should be good to go. Now to replicate what we did on that side. Again, side of the house is a known, 10,293, and our diagonal 17,213. Who of you out there remembered those numbers? Not happy with how that's lying. Wait one. Okay. What we need, 17,213. So get that one nice and straight, the diagonal. 10,293. I'm working a bit awkward because I want you guys to be able to see, but I'm trying to get as close to straight as I can. Right about there. Oh, nice when it goes in the ground easy. there we have it. Should be a nice square rectangle. Let's check. What is it supposed to be? 13797. 13797. 13797. Look, out by 4.5, maybe 5 mil, say 5 mil. For setting up, that's awesome. I'd want it to be much more accurate when I've got the string line run for the actual measurements. For this, we'll live with it. It gives us an idea where the butterboard's. For example, you do this squaring up and it's like, oh, 4 inches. I'll just move it out. You don't know whether you're out that way or that way. Just moving that out, you could end up with any sort of a shape, but it won't be square. If you're out, redo it. Measure both ways. Save you the boredom, I'm actually going to re-measure this on both ways to double check. Even though it's within 5 mil, I know my butterboards are going to be here, not a problem. But double check because it may actually be wrong. Yep. Don't want to do that here. Because once that concrete's in the ground, it ain't coming out. So let's do a Pythagorean one more time. Here's the first batter board in place, and I'll show you why I prefer them to be about 1.8 to 2 meters long. And the idea is you're going to put nails or screws to run a string line from corner to corner, batterboard to batterboard. So you need to have a bit of overlap. Same with this way. We'll have one string line running that way, and it's mounted to the batterboard. Now, if you have a longer batterboard, it means you can have it further away from your workings. Here in Australia, our Y pickets, we call them stars, are pre-drilled. Makes life easier. What I'm going to do is, with each of these when I drive them in, is have them facing with the holes accessible so I can drill into the butterboard or screw into the butterboard, securing them in place. I don't know what you guys in America use, but again, if it's got holes in it, make sure it's facing the right way. Here we go. Wow. So with these batter boards, as I said, these are a bit short to my liking, but I didn't want to spend money. What you need to do is position them in a way that your string line can be nailed or screwed to here, run over your first line. I'm doing it directly over the piers so I can stake them ready to be drilled. And then you've got to have your intersecting line. You'll be able to see once I put the string lines up how it works. For now, I've just got to drive these star pickets in with my brand new post driver. I'm thrilled with that. Let's do it. Makes life so much easier. Next. 2 more. There we go. That's all the butterboard posts driven in. Now we've got to screw them in place. That's another day. At least it's not raining now. A lot of hold-ups yesterday because of the rain. Anyhow, today I'm going to affix the batter boards to reasonably level. I want to get them close to the same level. That makes my squaring string for my setup the right dimensions. Another trick with the batter boards I'll show you with the camera. When I'm using the laser level, you'll notice this model has 4 arms. They block the laser beam. So I've put them at right angles to my corners. Therefore I get clear shot of the laser for my leveling. Anyway, I'll take you to the batter boards and we'll get into it. I'm going to start this first one off on the ground and then see how you go with the other 3. If I have any troubles, Mrs. Wild will be called. Uno. So now what I do is I put it where I'm actually going to be screwing, because that'll give me the most accurate reading, and just measure off. I better turn it on. There we go. So pretty close to level there. And now all I got to do is raise this up or down. Rightio. And then try one person. Perfect. That's 1. 3 more to go. That'll be right. The other side is laid down. Should get myself some knee pads as well. This ground is harsh on the knees, especially when you're young and like me. Okay. Near enough. Mama, just shifted the board. Try and keep it steady this time. That's a second one down. Off to number 3. How's this for modern architecture? Helps if the stick's level. Did I move it? I hope I didn't move it. I didn't want this to happen. I was hoping to get every single one level. Doesn't happen. But it's better in this case, like I did, to have it slightly high. Because all I need to do is give this a few taps to get it at the right height. Get it up the back where I'm doing all the others. Bingo. Bingo. There we go. Last one. Lucky last. Battleboard's done. A few more tricks and tips for you. Here's a reason why I like longer battleboards. In this case I had to screw on a bit of wood because I didn't position it quite perfectly. I still had plenty of room. Could have taken it down, shifted it. It's just easier to add this to it. Perfect center point. And then I used a plumb bob. I'll show you in a second. My plumb bob was actually an old sinker that was left here. And it works perfectly as a plumb bob, so money saved there. So here you go. That's just a little pointy sinker. Did a bowline knot, so it's free, not being forced to twist or anything, freely hanging. There's my plumb bob, to within millimeters. All I do is rest it in the corner without deforming the corner, touch the ground to stop it swinging, get it free in the air, and I can see where my center point is. Another tip, when you're doing your knots, you will need to adjust. Having a thick batter board lets you fine tune. If it's just the width of a screw, you can come forward and the width of the screw. Therefore, when you're doing your line, you're not going to have holes all over the place close together. You can move it around until you get the perfect square of your rectangle. Now, with these knots, I'll show you a little trick. I'm sure a lot of builders know this and don't want people to know. What I do is I put a little twist in, or go the other way is better. Put a little twist in, and I grab the line running to, pull it through the loop. Okay, so show you again. So here's the screw we want to tie off to. So what I do is I get the knot about there, loop it over, so it's over the top, pull this one through. That's your tension line. This is your loose end. Pull your tension line, loop it over, keep your fingers on this, keep the tension line tight. When you get it to the tension you want, don't go overboard, don't want it too tight. You just simply pull on your loose end, it tightens this knot and grips it. If you need to adjust, you can either slide it in a bit or completely undo it. No knot. Once again, about there, get your loop, pull your tight end through, keeping tension on it, get it to where you want it, get the tension you want. Once you've got the tension, just hold these two, just pinch them together, pull that tight. There you go. You've now got a nice taut string line and a knot that you can undo at any time and reset, readjust. I hope that helps. Stable enough that I could drive. I'll also talk you through. Now to